very, very, very good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to QI, the BBC's answer to Pop Idol, otherwise known as Bone Idol. To educate, inform and entertain, these are my intentions, and paving the road to hell with them tonight are Rich Hall, Clive Anderson, Bill Jupiters and Alan Davies. The four panellists of the apocalypse. May the Lord Wreath have mercy on your souls. Let's have a round on the buzzers and bells. Rich, how do you sound? And Clive goes...
Hey, wait a minute.
And Phil goes... And Alan goes... Excellent. Right, gentlemen, bombs away. Alan, have you heard about the Mexican kamikaze squadron?
Kamikazes, like that.
That's right, only Mexican. And,
I care not for myself, only my country.
very good indeed. Very good indeed.
For the emperor.
Andale, andale.
I just imagine a bloke in a big hat riding a donkey into the Alamo.
They eat so many refried beans, they fart themselves to death. And they explode in front of the enemy.
Well, it's oddly interesting thought, because kamikaze is the
Kamikaze
Japanese for
is a
divine
Japanese
wind.
word. Divine wind?
Yes, that's what it means, oddly enough. It is a Japanese word.
God's guff.
Yeah. But these little Mexican critters...
They're not people.
Exactly, not people, were deployed by the US Army in the Second World War against the Japanese.
They're not like the dolphins they deployed in the war against Iraq.
No, they're not.
They let them out.
What they call
they pissed
the
off.
Mark 8 MMS, Marine Mammal System.
What are the odds that the Iraqi Navy will be leaning out from a boat with a flaming hoop like that?
But a critter will be some sort of a desert fox.
No, well, very close, actually.
It's got to be an insect, hasn't it?
It's between an insect and a fox, you
Between an insect
you might say. You might
in
say.
size, or...
It's kind of... In fact, it is more fox-like than insect-like, but it flies. It's quite fox-like.
A bat.
A bat is the answer.
Yeah, a Mexican bat.
A Mexican bat. Oh! You're not going to like this. It's
How do you
horrible.
know that's Mexican without sombrero?
Well, it's actually... It's the breed of the bat. It's a Mexican free-tailed bat.
I actually know the answer.
Do you? Give it to us, Phil.
It's that the American Navy, in their wisdom, because they saw these bats would fly up under the eaves and nest, and they thought, well, if they see out at sea a Japanese aircraft carrier or the hangars of the airplanes, they'll nest.
Oh, yeah.
And they filled them with explosives, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. But what would happen is where they were sewed up, the bats would go, what's that? And they'd start nibbling at themselves and exploding in an untoward fashion.
You're very close, Phil. It's not actually the Navy, and it's not boats. It's actually...
not?
It's worse.
I'm very close in that I'm nowhere near
well,
at all.
no, we've got the principle. In aeroplanes, hundreds of these bats with little waistcoats. They went there with napalm in them and a detonator. And the idea was to drop them over Japanese towns round about dawn, so that as the light came, as all bats will, to escape the light, they would go into, as you say, the eaves and the rafters of the houses.
Yes.
And then, at a particular time, would detonate, causing these whole towns to burn, because most Japanese towns were made of wood and paper.
Mm-hmm. You've got to set the napalm off, so they have to follow them up with something.
Well, there's some sort of ignition device incorporated.
What do they say for that?
A little book of matches.
That's where
there is a poetic justice, however. Sorry, as a friend of our fairy creatures, you will be pleased to know that poetic justice prevailed, and that before they ever used these bats against the Japanese, they were testing, and the wind changed, and the bats had been dropped on a target little wooden city in the desert, were blown back to the headquarters of the American Army and blew it up.
I don't find it poetic.
Do you not find it poetic?
Well, I'm American. As I understand it, the kamikaze pilots, they only gave them enough fuel to go one way, right?
Yes.
They do that with all planes, though.
Right. Technically, all airplanes are kamikaze planes. Unless you buy a return ticket. This is why I think that planes should run on AA batteries. You want to go to London and New York, all right, you have to buy 200 AA batteries. They only bring enough batteries to get you there. There's no wastage
always
whatsoever.
get them at the airport.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then if you run out over the ocean, somebody's got like a Walkman or something, you could get some more batteries.
But what if under the plane, the bit of ribbon that you pull the batteries out with hasn't... Where's that gone? And so
snagged.
you have to get the end of a biro and... You're hanging underneath a 747...
35,000 feet,
trying
right?
to dig out 32 AA batteries with a biro.
Oh, none of this is as mad as a bat with a
You're
napalm
right.
waistcoat.
But it's such a step, because for 1 minute they're trying to get little bats with little napalm to blow up, and then, OK, that didn't work. An atomic bomb then will blow up 2 cities, and that was it.
I'm glad you said that, because that brings me to my next question, which I'm going to address to Rich. Which comedian went and dropped an atomic bomb on Japan?
That would mean, basically, which comedian bombed in Japan. That would have been me.
Did you bomb in Japan?
I bombed so horribly in Japan that I...
In front of an English-speaking audience?
No, Japanese-speaking audience. I think I put my finger on what went wrong. That had a lot to do with it.
No, a comedian, member of, what you might call a troupe of comedians.
One of the Stooges.
No, better known than this.
Abbott and Costello.
Why, you knucklehead? You dropped that atomic bomb on Japan. What do you want to do that for? Why, you're the war. They'd never have won the war if those blokes had had a plane.
Oliver Hardy.
No. This man didn't drop the bomb. He contributed materially to the technology behind the dropping of the bomb, very specifically behind the dropping of the bomb.
Well, he invented... Everyone else was working on the nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
He invented little doors went...
There's a particular clamp. There's a particular clamp that held the bomb to Enola Gay, to the aeroplane.
The Bob Hope.
the crazy gang. Crazy gang.
The best known of them all, the Marx Brothers.
Groucho
Bono.
Harpo and the other
Zeppelino.
one. That one there.
And the one with the ring round him, what's his name?
Oh.
No. You've got, reading from left to right, Harpo and Groucho, and then on the right-hand side there's Chico.
Zeppo.
Zeppo is the right answer.
bomb door
Zeppo
designer.
Marx. And he joined after Gummo, also known as Huo, left the stage act, and he was in 5 of the films, the last one being Duck Soup, and he left to become an agent and to set up a company that specialised in engineering and design.
Called Blammo.
Called it should have been called Blammo. Yeah. And he came up with a clamp that held the bomb, as well as a wristwatch he came up with that detected your pulse and gave an alarm when you were having a heart attack. And, I mean, Groucho said he was a lousy actor and couldn't wait to get out of the Marx Brothers. But he also added, and everyone seems to be in agreement, that he was far and away, off-screen, the funniest and the wittiest of the Marx Brothers.
Harpo could actually talk in real life.
No. Oh, now you've shattered all
I
my
read
illusions.
his autobiography.
Yeah.
He spent the first 15 years of his life nicking stuff, and he's really proud of it.
They all did. They were gangsters in New York, big hoodlums.
The Three Stooges are flying planes, and they're the gangs of New York.
The gangs in New York. He's got the stove.
We're going to kill you if you don't give me that money.
And he had a long career as an after-dinner speaker later on, Harpo, because he could just stand up and say, unaccustomed as I am.
Hey!
And everyone followed that.
A lot of the early 20th century gangs in New York were Jewish. I was in Dutch Schultz, people like that, and right up to Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel.
I think that a lot of the Scorsese oeuvre would be a lot nicer if people had horns and, you know, didn't it? And had a funny hat. Yeah. Hey, Johnny, what's you gonna go do? You think I'm funny how? I'm gonna play this harp over here. I amuse you.
Fantastic. Now, Phil, one for you, I think. What goes woof, woof, boom?
Suicide Corgi. The next Norwegian entry for the Eurovision Song Contest. My heart goes woof, woof, boom.
Terrierist.
Excellent. Joy upon joy. Very, very good. We must have some points for that. Excellent. No, you've kind of said it well. We know how grotesque the Americans could be with sending bats into combat. And now the Russian flag, as you see waving behind you, the Russians could be just
Dog with a bomb
ghastly.
on it.
Dogs with bombs tied to them is what we're looking for.
Oh.
I know. It's
man.
what man is capable of, isn't it? It's too grotesque.
And does he know?
The story is horrible. They trained them by making them very, very
Throw
hungry.
a stick at a tank and he just goes.
Well, no, what comments? Do you know...
throw a bomb at the tank, for God's sake? Instead of making the dog go
Because
over.
they're armour-plated, and the point is they would keep the dogs very, very hungry and then put food under a tank, which is the vulnerable part, which you can't get a bomb at easily. And,
Why don't you just put a bomb there while you're there putting the food down? Why don't you put a bomb there? This is right away.
No, they're training them.
Oh, with the training.
Yes,
Sorry.
so they become used to looking under tanks for food.
I thought you meant on the back.
Whose job was it to change gear on that dog?
That is the
That's
trigger.
the trigger for the bomb.
When he gets under the tank.
This is just...
Bet you all eat sheep, though, don't you, on Sunday?
Don't worry, that one didn't blow up. He lives on a farm now. He lives on a farm now.
His back's broken. But...
I have to tell you that there was again poetic justice. The dogs just turned round in the battle and saw the tanks, which are Russian-shaped, which they recognised as having food under them, and so they went and blew up their own tank. So the Russians started to shoot all the dogs.
They didn't shoot that one. They didn't shoot that one. He lives on a farm. They really love him. They stroke him along.
Anyway, on to our next picture question. Why is this picture a double first?
Are they going to use the penguin to blow up the Scotsman?
It's a brilliant one.
First time the pipes are played in the Antarctica.
Yes, it's probably the first time a penguin was ever subjected to any kind of music.
Penguin, 2 seconds later, went like that.
Is this the first ever Edinburgh Festival?
Would that it were. No, did you know...
Would that it were,
Going all
Stephen?
Robert
Would that it
Robinson.
were?
Ah, would that it were. Oh, shush and tittens.
This one for mother and oldest son.
Did you know that 50% of pipers, I don't mean newspipers, I mean bagpipers, 50% of pipers suffer from repetitive strain injury and also are hard of hearing?
Well, that is poetic justice.
That's exactly. Very good. Excellent. Oh, how neat. No, it's the first postcard ever to be sent from Antarctica.
Obviously, you don't bring a lot of stuff to Antarctica. This guy had to drag his bag. What if they hit a crevasse? Too much weight, and it turned out it was just because he brought a...
You never know, it might have saved his life. It might have just caught in the crack and he would swing from it. That did come out oddly, but you know what I mean. Now, what is the common name of the species Ursus arctos? Ursus arctos.
Well, it's the polar bear, is it?
Polar bear, did you say?
Yes, that's the
It was indeed a bear pit,
Yes.
a bear trap. No. No, the common name is... two common names. If you're American, there's one name. If you're European, another.
What's Ursus mean?
Grizzly. Ursus is the Latin for bear,
Right.
and arctos is the Greek for bear.
Oh, so it's a bear.
It's a bear.
It's a bear, yeah.
What's a hare bear in Latin?
We shall have to
They
find
were
out.
great, weren't they, the hare bear ones? You can join in at some level, I find.
Exactly.
There's always a way in. There's a grizzly.
There's a grizzly bear, yes. Ursus arctos, or the brown bear. Point is that the Arctic itself, the Arctic and therefore, of course, the Antarctic, is named after the bear, not the other way around. It was the region of the bear, where you see Ursa Major, the great bear, the constellation in the sky, is always over the north.
So the Arctic's named after the bear.
Yeah.
So the Antarctic is named after the ant and the bear.
Ant
Why
and
would that
Bear.
be?
The Adventures of Ant and
They're
Bear.
like ant and deck.
Ant and Deck, exactly.
Only easier to tell apart, obviously.
It's easy to tolerate.
I love them.
They
but
won't come on the show now, you've said that.
Oh, bother. Bother. How am I going to live with myself?
No, they're good. Right, another letter.
Terrific.
Anthony and December, you should
They
list
could be
them as,
walking up down under here as we speak. They're not, as it happens.
Ant
Nor-
is always on the left.
Yes.
Oh, is that how you can tell?
Always on the
Thank you. So reading from left to right, they're in alphabetical order. Very
Amp
good.
and deck, amp and deck.
Easy.
Excellent.
And it's weird, even when you go around them and go from behind, they still... somehow it works.
Whoa,
Like the eyes following you around the room, it's like the moon going with you up the M1.
That's amazing.
Amp and deck, always.
No, the polar bear is actually Ursus maritimus, as if you cared. How do polar bears disguise themselves?
Like that. They stand in front of anything white.
That's probably the right answer, I suspect. Yeah.
What, do they dress up in something?
No, there is apparently a misconception that they cover their nose with their left paw.
Yes.
In a sort of ostrich burying its head in the sand sort of way, thinking that it disguises themselves. Like that, like our model, our demonstrator is showing us now.
Where's Alan? Where's Alan
Where's
gone?
Alan gone? Where's he gone?
Mate, you sure they're not just checking whether they've got bad breath? Because,
I don't understand if you're a 12-foot, 800-pound bear, why you have to disguise yourself at all.
well, it's
Bear
Spot
tax.
on. Who is going to bear tax? Bear tax. Maybe right.
no bears here.
Or they stand in like that with, and they put 3 bits of coal there and a carrot in their mouth.
Delicious. Now, well, there we are. This brings us neatly to our general ignorance round, in which we ask Alan, is this a rhetorical question?
No.
Quite right. So... Fingers on the buzzers.
What's the point of rhetorical questions?
So, fingers on the buzzers. How many states are there in the United States of America? Alan.
50.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear, oh, dear. It's 46, technically.
Yeah.
Oh, because 4 of them are not states. There they are.
Ah.
That's Kentucky, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts.
They're Commonwealth. One's a
They're
Commonwealth.
commonwealths,
Yeah.
exactly. All 4 of them are actually commonwealths rather than states. What that constitutionally means, is their governance any different from the other? Do they have governors and they have the same sort of way of conducting their business? And so many straight lines. Isn't God odd? You know? What are the odds against that?
They've all got
Absolute-
straight lines except
Right.
apart from one. There's only one state in the United States that hasn't got a straight line in it.
Oh, that's a good question. I should imagine that would be Hawaii.
It is. Well
Yeah.
done. I knew.
Good. No,
Yes.
no. Well, there you are. No, it's just a guess. Anyway, gosh, how interesting. Now, staying with America, in the whole of the Second World War, only 6 Americans were killed by enemy action on US soil.
Right.
All of them at a church picnic, right? The cause of death was a Japanese fugo. My question is, what is a fugo?
He's the 7th Mark's brother.
We were hoping you might say it was a poisonous fish, because there is a poisonous fish called a fugu, but it's not that. No, a fugo is a paper balloon.
There were atomic bombs in one direction, and
That's
okay,
right.
let loose the paper balloons then.
They sent thousands of them over the Pacific
With a bomb hanging off it.
with bombs on them.
Yeah.
But the odds against them landing on a city in the mainland United States are drastically
It's pretty
against, because most of it's kind of wasteland. It's farmland to the west and desert to the... Whoops, hello.
It's not wasteland.
Well, no. All right, OK, but the chances are that if you send a random balloon into mainland United States, the chances are more likely it will hit something which is not going to
Wasteland.
kill people.
It's a clever weapon, though, isn't it? Presumed because
big out
radar
town
wouldn't
door.
detect it, because only the little bits of metal in the bomb would be even...
Yes.
So, but the paper wouldn't show up on radar.
No, absolutely. It was made of a paper called washi, which is from mulberry.
Washi.
Washi, or wahi, if you prefer.
Balloon!
Very good. Absolutely. Fugo.
Balloon!
Yeah.
Yeah, fugo, it's called. Yep.
No good at...
But they
can't do
did
a
rather
Japanese.
cleverly know about the jet stream, which no one else in the world knew about, which allowed it to travel hundreds of miles an hour. But actually, they were made by schoolgirls who didn't know what they were making. They pasted.
Birmingham is a wasteland.
That's Alabama, I
Yes,
believe. Is that right?
Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama, yeah.
That's a wasteland. They should team up with each other.
Sure. Anyway, those are fugo bombs, but fugu, which you neatly avoided the trap of
It's blowfish.
Not that
it's
puffer
the-
fish thing.
It's the big
there's
one.
a bit in the middle that...
Oh, yeah.
Is it about 6 people a year die in Japan?
It's actually a bit more than that. Between 30 and 100 suffer from the poisoning, and half of those die, so it's sort of anything between 15 and 50.
800 Americans die in a McDonald's every year.
Which one? Best to avoid that one.
You certainly will.
The Blowfish McMuffin.
But you're right, this is a fish which has inner parts, organs, which are deadly poison.
They just love the daring of it.
Well, that's what I thought, Alan, but actually it turns out that, in fact, there are traces of the poison always left, and if they're small enough...
Get you high.
You're quite right. It's tetrodotoxin, which is very, very poisonous, and you have to be specially trained in the art of filleting this particular fish. And in all the restaurants in Japan where you can eat it have little lanterns hanging outside made of the skin of this fish with a little symbol to show that it's a trained... Part of the training is you have to eat the fish that you've just caught.
Have you had
No,
the fugu?
I've never been to Japan.
You're so tall, you'd be like Godzilla. They'd be... Aye! Stephen Furayu!
Meet the fly! Meet the fly!
You'd be rampaging through downtown Tokyo. Ma! No, a museum!
Why is it that the it's always a 50-50 ball, isn't it, whether it's an R or an L, and they always get it wrong.
I refuse to generalise about a race of people.
Oh, right, OK, fair enough.
I had Mike Myers do an American name, Rory Templeton, and he called him Rory Templeton.
If you want Japanese to sort of virtually commit suicide, just ask them to say orange-tip fritillary. I will want to hear!
For you, Mr. Fry, the interview is over. You're Bill Bridge now!
So much for the Geneva Convention! Oh, yes, so they're all absolutely correct. Yes, whatever the question was. Fugus, that's right. Yeah, fugus. Fugus and fugos. Right, so when are penguins found near the magnetic North Pole?
Well,
Yeah.
when they're wearing the suit of armour.
They're going to be soon, because the magnetic north and south is going to switch any minute now.
Oh, give them
going to
5
be
points. Absolutely spot on. Yeah. The trap was to say, well, of course, penguins only live near the South Pole, so they'll never be near the North Pole. But the fact is, the North and the South flip in magnetic
I think penguins
poles.
might be my favourite animal.
They are wonderful, aren't they?
I like the one on the bottom left.
It looks like security.
It does. Yes, the actual root of the question, though penguins are, in so many ways, I suppose, more interesting, was that the North Pole becomes the South Pole and vice versa every million or so years.
Really?
Yeah.
So any minute now, everyone's fridge magnets are just going to fall on the floor. Loads of people start believing in bloody God again, won't
No,
they?
that's not how fridge magnets work. What will happen is compasses will point to the south rather than the north.
Oh, that'd be great for orienteering, wouldn't it?
I think people get used to it quite quickly, though.
No, they won't.
I think they will.
North, not south. I don't live in South London. I don't care what you say.
I'm with you there. Oh, dear.
Do we know why it happens? What's going on?
We do. It's a very mysterious process.
Just somebody flicks
But
a
if
switch
the
away.
Earth were not magnetic, there would be no life on it. At least certainly no life like us, because
What a loss.
yeah, the magnetism deflects the solar rays and the.
I want you to imagine that the penguin is a malicious and dangerous conqueror of peoples. And now look at that picture.
I think they don't have many predators. Obviously, in the Antarctic, they don't.
Polar bears eat them.
They don't live in the same continent.
Do they?
No.
They never
Polar
met.
bears in the north.
Polar bear lives in the north and the penguins in the south.
Yes.
They've never seen one another.
No, except
in
in
my
zoos.
mind, it's like lions and tigers. In my head, they're all hanging out together
But lions
and
and
they've
tigers
never met.
don't either. Yes, exactly. Lions, Africa, tigers, Asia.
Imagine if it was like that with men and women. Here's a thought, right? Do you think it would be better if it was harder to conceive but easier to give birth?
If I was a woman, I would certainly think that. I should imagine.
I mean, who cooked that up?
It's pretty mean, isn't
It's
it?
all backwards, isn't it?
Yeah. You're right.
Mind you, you wouldn't want gasping agony for 36 hours to conceive.
That's usually what it sounds like. Let's move on then. What is wrong with this picture?
Starship Enterprise.
It should be the other way up.
Yeah, absolutely right. Have some points. Quite right. It's upside down, according to our, usual convention of putting north at the top and south at the bottom. Is also.
Oh, so in 200,000 years' time, this is going to be completely wrong, isn't it?
Yes, it might well be. But at the moment, that's its north pole at the top, and that's its south pole. At
What
the
I meant was it should be vertical.
Oh, how very honest you are, Davies. You can take those points off yourself. And lastly, on poles, how are Boy Scouts connected to poles? Don't look at me like that.
As part of the uniform, they used to have a hat and a pole and a neckerchief and a special pole which was used for erecting their tents, for example.
Something to do with Poland.
It is to do with Poland. Name things that are particular about Boy Scouts.
Dib, 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 dob, dob, dob.
That's one.
That's
salute.
Polish.
The salute.
It's
well, you've got
Polish.
there. It's very, very close to the Polish salute. Let's have a look at a Polish salute and a Boy Scout salute together, shall we? There you are, on your screens now.
Which one's the Po?
Oh, let me think.
There's
Oh,
two
what a
fingers.
weedy, nerdy
It's
scout.
the Milky Bar Kid, I think, isn't it?
We need hard scouts.
I love the Boy Scouts. We went to Nam.
It's actually said to be an American invention, the Boy Scout movement. It's more than really a British, although it's said to be made in Powell by many. There was a man called Seaton who founded a movement called the Woodcraft Indians.
Did you go in a helicopter gunship?
He had a little waistcoat with the palm strapped to it.
With the doors playing really loudly.
Now, boys, if you see anybody wearing black pyjamas, you run towards them and you press that button there.
Dib, dib, dib.
Kaboom! You got your woodcraft, you got your killing gooks.
You got your napalm waistcoat, too. Well, there you are, yes. And Poles are the only army, I think, where they have that salute with two fingers, supposedly after some Polish war hero who had 3 fingers blown off.
Do I look Polish?
You look very Polish, yeah.
Oh, do a Polish polar bear.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, all that bombshell, that's it for another week, I'm sorry to say. And the final scores are poles apart. Phil scored a piping hot 4. Rich barely scraped in ahead of Clive with 2 and 1, respectively, but Alan bombed with -4. Two fingers to Alan and to you all. It's do widzenia. Good night.